Fresh out the box! Fresh out the box! Fresh out the box! Fresh out the box!
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast, the number one podcast in the United States, featuring specifically us three. I'm Johananon.
That's it. You're not gonna do your title.
The rest of my stuff? Oh.
Yeah.
The board game guru.
You do this stuff so much. I hate this so much.
Board game guru, game master extraordinaire.
There it is.
It's me, Casualties CDG. I'm happy to be in the hot seat tonight. Show me Bachelor number one.
I am Bachelor number one, the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and these two never cease to amaze at how quickly we can go off the rails in the first 30 seconds of a podcast. This is episode 84 of said podcast, Fresh Out the Podcast, the official podcast of Fresh Out the Box. And we are here to talk about all kinds of stuff, including Evil Dead Rise, Mandalorian, and more. But first, I wanted to talk to both of you about movie stars. And the reason for this, I always... any excuse I can have to talk about movie stars, I'll take it. But this one's particularly interesting because there was a survey that was done by the National Research Group, which, this is according to Puck News. They're an analysis firm that specializes in entertainment and tech, and they commissioned a survey asking consumers to name up to 5 actors that would make them the most interested in seeing a movie in a theater. So not who's your favorite movie star, not who do you look forward to seeing the most in movies, but this is specifically who do you most want to watch in a movie theater. Now, let me see if there's a little bit more details about who. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure it just says asking consumers. So I don't necessarily know who exactly is the clientele of this. They have people of all ages, but basically from the boomers to millennials to Gen Z, they've asked everyone, and they've basically averaged it all out as to this top 20. I have the top 20 here in a list. I want to see how many of the top 20 in a reasonable time period you all can guess, because I find this list to be extremely interesting, and we'll talk about why after we talk about who all's on the list. So just curious, out of the top 20 actors named in the study, who do you think is in the top 20? I'll start with you,
Tom
John.
Cruise.
Oh, Gary goes first. Tom Cruise is number one.
Yeah,
Tom
that
Cruise
would be
is
my
number
number
one
one guess as
on the
well.
list.
Yeah, that's a gimmick. I'll still let Jahan go first. I think that one's a freebie. Because
That one
it's
is,
Tom Cruise.
yeah. I would also say Tom Cruise, but then I was going to just start naming Toms.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
'Cause that's not, yeah. She's on my mind right now because I just saw a preview of her next movie. But Anna de Armas.
Shockingly, not in the top 20.
Zendaya.
Oh, that's a good
Not in the top 20.
one. Ooh, damn, what's her name? She's in all the top grossing movies. Gamora.
Oh gosh, now I'm having a blank. But no, not on the list. Zoe Saldana. Not
Zoe
on the
Saldana. Yeah. Really? That's surprising.
Bradley Pitts.
Bradley Pitts is number 4 on the list. Brad
Yeah.
Pitt.
Jeez. Well, so it's not an encouraging list so far. Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, shockingly, not in the top 20.
Ben Affleck.
Whoa, hey.
Not in the top 20.
Look at you taking 2 guesses in a row. Get out of here.
Bill Cosby. I don't know.
Bradley Cooper.
Not in the top 20. That's
Damn.
interesting.
I don't know any more actors. Let's see.
There's
Chris Hemsworth.
there's some one who is talked about a lot on this podcast
It
is number
can't
2.
be. It can't be James Johnson.
James the Rock Johnson
That's fair.
himself is number 2.
That's fair.
I don't believe it because
makes sense.
people don't want to see him anymore.
John Cena.
Like if this list was from like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. But he made Black Adam. Nobody wants to see him ever again in anything.
What about John Cena?
John Cena is not on the list. So here,
Margot Robbie.
Ooh.
not on the top 20.
What, are you kidding me?
Surprising. That's
Did they
surprising.
only interview boomers? All of these names are from Ocean's 11 movies.
Mel
So this
Gibson?
This is the big takeaway of this survey, and it's why I thought it was so fascinating. Only one of the actors on this top 20 list is under 40 years old.
Oh my
And
god.
he is at number 20 on the list. So every actor that's in this top 20, with the exception of one, is over the age of 40.
Oh my god. Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. is number 17.
Okay. That was a good guess. Viewer Lord Jesus Christ. That was a good guess.
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis is not on the list.
Thank
on the
God.
top 20.
I thought him too, but I was like, he can't be. So
He
like,
can't be, right? I just had to
There's some-
try.
But there are some heavy hitters that you all are skipping over. So
Melly-
number
Melly Gibbs?
3, I'll start to give some. Who did you say? I'm sorry.
Mel Gibson.
I don't
Mel
think
Gibson. Is not, I
No,
love that
I don't
you're like
think
really
racist.
digging deep into the old boomer racist. No, Mel Gibson's not on the list. Number 3 is a Tom.
Tom Hanks.
There you go.
Yeah, your guy. That's your guy.
Number 5 is quite possibly the most prominent black actor currently,
Idris Elba.
maybe ever.
Oh, that's a
Sean,
good guess.
Come on.
William Smith.
Oh, he is number 7.
Okay.
on the
Yeah.
list, William Smith.
He's definitely a very prominent black actor. Whether or not he slapped Chris Rock, that doesn't matter.
Prominent black actor right now over
Jamie
40.
Foxx.
You all are going to feel
Jamie Foxx is a good one.
embarrassed.
That's a good guess. Both of our
He's-
guesses
he's-
were good. Oh, Denzel
Morgan
Washington.
Freeman.
There it is, Denzel.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm kidding.
I think we would have
Is she
gotten
in the
there,
chat?
but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I don't
that
know
would've
how
made
good
me
of
feel silly.
podcasting
What
this
a-
is for people listening. Hopefully, this is fun.
What about the Chris's? Are the Chris's on the list?
The one actor at number 20 who is the one under the age of 40
Chris Pines.
is one of the Chris's.
That'll be Chris Pratt then, right?
It is not.
Is it Pines?
No way.
My
It
money
is not
back.
Chris Pine.
What? Hemsies?
Evans?
It is not Evans.
Is it Hemsies?
It is Hemsies.
It's
It is
Hemsies.
Chris Hemsworth.
I do
is
like Chris
number
Hemorrhoids.
20.
That is probably, he's one of my favorite Chris's. But I figured Pratt puts more butts in seats on account of Jurassic World.
Number 6 is, again, surprising that she is ranked so high on this list. She is
Madeline
one of
Albright.
Judi Dench.
one of only 3 females that are in the top 20. And the 3 are interesting. If this was, like the mid 90s, all of these would make sense.
Jennifer Lopez.
Kathy Bates.
Kathy Ireland.
I think I got Drew with that one.
Oh man, all the Kathy Bates stands listening to this podcast are just fist pumping.
They're all like, yeah, Kathy Bates. Woo!
Oh boy, no. Julia Roberts is
Ooh.
number 6.
That's
Sure.
See, honestly, like after you say it, it's super obvious. Of course, it
If
is.
you put Julia Roberts and The Rock in a movie, I wouldn't go see that. This is a bad list.
This is a bad list. This is a terrible list. Who'd they?
Tom Cruise and The Rock in.
They went
We've
to a
got-
Walmart during work hours for this survey. Bunch of retirees.
I'm just gonna go through the rest of these now, for the sake of time. I said Julia Roberts number 6. We had Leonardo DiCaprio at number 8, Johnny Depp at
No!
number 9, Kevin Hart at number 10, Keanu Reeves at 11, Sandra
Okay.
Bullock at 12, Ryan Reynolds at 13, Adam Sandler at 14, Harrison Ford at 15, George Clooney at 16. Y'all got 17, whoever
This is
it
a
was.
weird
18
list.
is Angelina Jolie. 19 is Morgan Freeman. So obviously this list skews super old. The prominent names not on the list. Again, giving credit to Puck News because they've analyzed this hardcore and making it easy for me. You some of the people you all guessed. There's no Zendaya. Other big names not in this top 20. No Jennifer Lawrence. No Timothée Chalamet. No Tom Holland. No Michael B. Jordan. No person that's been basically a top movie star or really designated as the next wave of movie stars that have been kind of anointed in the past 10 years. The average age of the people in the top 20 is 57 and a half years old, which is just insane. Only 4 of them are in their 40s. 2 of them are in their 80s. So yeah, so this is just nuts. And then of course
But
there's
look, we gotta interview old people. They've seen more movies than young people. Let's go to a retirement home. Let's get honest numbers from these old folks.
now what's interesting here is if you do the demo breakdowns, like from young people among Gen Z. Adam Sandler is number 5, Tom Holland's number 10, Zendaya's number 14, Chris Evans 15, Kevin Hart number 3. So those are people popular among Gen Z. Millennials, which I believe is where we fall.
We are.
The people who rank higher among us are Jason Statham, Michael B. Jordan, Vin Diesel, Leo, and of all people, Liam Neeson, which is interesting.
That is a weird one.
I don't want to see those people in a movie together either. I don't want to see Vin Diesel and Liam Neeson in a family car movie. I don't
I
need
want
to
to see
that
Michael
at
B.
all.
Jordan and Vin Diesel in a movie. I'd watch that.
If Michael B. Jordan was in Riddick,
Yeah,
the
it'd be
new
dope.
one they're making, that would be dope.
It'd be awesome.
But I don't want Liam-
That's what I was thinking.
I don't want the Liam Neesons in it though.
Oh man, what if Liam Neeson's though is just straight up Qui-Gon
Qui-Gon Jinn,
in
yes.
Riddick?
Put Qui-Gon Jinn in it and tie Riddick to the Disney universe.
Oh boy, we did it.
for
We made
Gen
the
X,
greatest
those
movie.
that that ranked a little bit higher for Gen X in particular. You got Julia Roberts, Keanu Reeves, Viola Davis, Matthew McConaughey, and Morgan Freeman. And among boomers, and the boomers list is super unsurprising: Kevin Costner, Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, George Clooney, Meryl Streep. Like, sure, absolutely.
It's pretty funny.
So yeah,
I like the way you say boomer. There's like this hint of venom, like in your voice.
I don't mean it like that, but
Like,
yeah, I see what you mean.
boomer.
Freaking old people. Then you've got the people under 40 that made the top 100. We said Chris Hemsworth, Jennifer Lawrence, Tom Holland, Michael B. Jordan, Zendaya, ScarJo, Jenna Ortega, Margot Robbie, Henry Cavill, Emma Watson, Gal Gadot, Timothy Chalamet, and Jonah Hill.
That is a way better list.
It's a much better
Right.
list.
Those are the people under 40 that ranked on the top 100. So, at least they're relevant, but it's just the top 20 is insane, especially when you look at people like Johnny Depp, who is right now in a state where he's considered to be unhireable by most studios.
It's a mess, dude.
But this list basically says regardless of that, he's still a draw. Yeah, and then like Sandler is on the list, but he struck a deal with Netflix years ago now, and most of his movies have been going straight to streamers, with the exception of like, what is Uncut Gems, one of the only Sandler movies that's gone to a theater in the past 10 years or so. I feel like it is.
I feel like it's been working out pretty well for him though, because he kind of gets. It seems like he gets to do what he wants to do and make movies with his friends for a lot of money. So
I agree, but the list is for who puts butts in seats in theaters, and for Sandler to be on that list is weird because he's not a theaters guy, really.
Not anymore.
He's a streaming guy.
And it's one of those things where, like, is Netflix, I don't want to say wasting an opportunity. We've talked a lot on this show about Netflix and if their movies should go to theaters or not, but is that a missed opportunity having Sandler movies going straight to the streamer as opposed to going in theaters? I don't know if it really is. I mean, all the Sandler movies are typically amongst their most watched things ever. I mean, Murder Mystery just got a sequel that came out recently. I still actually haven't watched it, but I think that's the first of his direct to Netflix movies, like actually Netflix produced movies that got a direct sequel. So that's worth noting. Because Murder Mystery was huge when it launched.
it's a real parent movie, dude. Like my dad was like all about it. He really liked it. Not my cup of tea. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't understand movie theaters, like how they think at all, because like you go to a movie theater like Monday through like Wednesday, it's completely empty. Like, work out a deal, premiere streaming stuff there, on those days, make it cheaper. Like, hell, like, hey, $5, come watch the premiere of this new Netflix show in the theater, and like, because like I was in a completely empty movie theater yesterday, nobody there, and it's like, this is a real waste of money and time for this theater.
I do definitely use my own parents as kind of like a sample source because they like going to the movies on occasion, and I find it interesting what they will want to go see in theaters. And my dad, not my mom as much, but my dad does like to go see all the Marvel movies or DC movies. Like, he likes to go see all the superhero movies. But the other things that will excite him are things like Top Gun Maverick. He and my mom definitely went and saw Ticket to Paradise, which was the George Clooney, Julia Roberts rom-com that was out and actually did pretty well at the box office because I guess the people that were surveyed on this list went to go see it. They went to go see 80 for Brady in theaters. They go to see those kinds of movies that appeal to them. I don't know that they're going to be at the theater to see Wonka starring Timothy Chalamet, the Willy Wonka origin story. I don't know if they're going to be there on opening weekend for that one.
I know that that's a thing, and I just don't know if I want to go see that with my eyes. I like Timothy Chalamet, and I like Wonka enough, but how many times do we have to see Wonka's story?
Right.
I don't know. I feel like I might wait for that to come out, but it's worth noting that I thought about Timothy Chalamet earlier as an actor who puts butts in seats, but this is where I'm kind of on the fence about him. I might not go see
Willy
Wonka.
Wonka, man, that's a weird one. The last Willy Wonka movie sucked. With Johnny Depp, it's awful.
and CinemaCon is going on currently as we speak. So all the studios are starting to have press conferences and such about their, or I should say, presentations with the upcoming 2023 theater slate, what they have going on for the rest of the year. And a lot of this footage isn't available to the public yet, but you can go and read about the Wonka footage, which apparently features Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa. That's a thing that happens there.
What?
Again, I've already talked about how, like, in Dungeons and Dragons and things, he likes to play these weird character roles, and apparently he's an Oompa Loompa in the Wonka origin story.
I don't know how to feel about that.
There's detailed notes about the trailer footage they showed of the Kraven the Hunter movie that Sony showed off. Warner Brothers showed off the first footage of Dune 2, which everybody is saying looks absolutely incredible. There's a new Flash trailer that actually is out today, but I haven't watched it yet. But there's lots of things coming out, and yeah, that's just worth noting. That's all kind of ongoing.
I saw the Flash trailer again when I went to go see Evil Dead, and dude, Ezra Miller delivers every single line that is in that trailer with zero, like, give a fuck. Like, he sounds so bored to be there. Like, it's...
Apparently they are screening The Flash at CinemaCon, I think tonight, for critics and the people in attendance to see, and they are not having any kind of social media embargo after the fact.
So
WB is apparently super confident in this movie and how good it is. Of course, they've got James Gunn out there tweeting, like, this is the greatest superhero movie of all time, but, like, now with James Gunn in the position he is, like, I don't know how much we can really read into him saying that, considering he's now in charge of the DCU. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that they're going to be letting people talk about it and that they're screening it this early, it definitely bodes well for that movie.
Yeah, it might be good. I'm just saying, he sounds like he's on tranquilizers the whole time.
I don't disagree at all. So yeah. Anyway, that's the movie star survey. There's other interesting notes, right? Like, Jenna Ortega is at number 54 on the overall list, and I mean, she's been in the Scream movies, but the recent ones. But I feel like her super huge rise to popularity in the past year is due to Wednesday, which is a TV show. So it's not even a movie, but yet this survey specifically about who would you go see in theaters, and apparently she's just a huge draw to the younger generation, which, myself included, I like her a lot. I liked Wednesday.
Same.
I like her in the Scream movies, and I think the Scream franchise currently, they kind of lucked into having her. She's in 5 and 6, and I don't think they knew how big of a deal she was going to be by the time that 6 came out. So good on them. So that is the movie star survey. Thanks for partaking in my games. We can go ahead and move on to the other main topic of the week, which, Gary, I know that you have been road tripping this past weekend, which probably has not allowed you any time to go to the theater. However, Jahan and I both did see Evil Dead Rise, the 5th entry in the Evil Dead film franchise, I should say. So, Gary, do you have any preferences here? Are you worried about Evil Dead Rise spoilers or anything of the sort?
I am not worried about Evil Dead Rise spoilers.
I don't know how much there really is to spoil anyway. If you've seen the trailers, you know that the mom gets possessed, and that really is the majority of the plot of the movie, is the family dealing with that. But yeah, Jahan, what did you think of Evil Dead Rise, directed by Lee Cronin, based on characters by Sam Raimi, produced by Rob Tapper? I saw in the credits that Bruce Campbell was also an executive producer on this movie. Yes. What did you think of Evil Dead Rise? Really?
I mean, so it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. It was just like, I don't feel like I was afraid at all through any of it. It didn't really get me. There was just a lot of gore and all that stuff. That's Evil Dead. Fine, whatever. But like, that's supposed to be on the side. That's supposed to be happening. You expect it, but there's supposed to be fear. Like, fear is supposed to be central to this. And really, like, I think they were just like, oh, this guy's bleeding out of his face. Isn't that scary? And it's like, nah, not really. Like, there were some genuinely cool parts, and they changed some stuff. They added to the lore, which I like it when they add to the lore rather than changing lore. You know what I mean? Because, like, this does not ruin the canon of anything that's happened in any of the previous material. So that's cool. I like it when they do stuff like that. It was handled with respect. It was disturbing. And, you know, if I was younger, it probably would have scared me. Honestly, like, it was just, I've seen every single thing that Evil Dead's done. I've seen all the movies. I've seen the show. I've played the game. Like, it's hard to surprise me, especially when you kind of stick to that Evil Dead formula. Like, they didn't really break free of that too much. And so it was predictable for me. And it was fine. It was watchable. I'm not like, damn it, that was a piece of shit movie. But, you know, instead of being like, I wanted to be at like an 8, I was probably closer to like a 5 or a 6, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I liked it. I would say I have some similar thoughts to you, especially because when this trailer came out, I thought the trailer was terrifying. Like, when I had been at other movies and the trailer would play, it would generally creep me out. And I feel like going to see this in theaters, it was the first time in a while I had some genuine dread going into the theater. Like, oh, is this truly going to creep me out? And it really didn't. It has a good amount of gore. So those that want to go to these horror movies and see a lot of blood and gore, you will be happy. Great effects, makeup, and like the possessions and the way that it looked. All of that looked really good.
Great.
But every time that I braced for a jump scare, I think the movie kind of lets you off easy. I don't really remember there being many, if any, jump scares in it. There are times when it sets up for it, like you brace for it. And yeah, and it really doesn't lean into that, which I'm not complaining about at all. I don't like horror movies as much that just rely on cheap jump scares. So this movie tries to create terror in a different way. It does a really good job, I think, of sometimes letting things happen in the background of scenes, where if you really pay attention, you can catch little creepy things or characters moving around in the background. But I mean, it's certainly light on plot, right? It's the typical Evil Dead, right? People find Necronomicon, people read or find ways to read passages from Necronomicon, which you shouldn't do. I'm just saying to anybody listening to this, if you ever find a Book of the Dead, you know, Necronomicon, don't read from it. Like, maybe just don't, or just leave it.
Well, to their credit, they didn't.
True, they did have vinyl records that did the incantations, so that is fair.
Which is cool. I mean, they played with the whole, you know, the tape recorder from the original movies kind of like sound and feel, but like in those movies, honestly, it was way creepier. In the remake of Evil Dead, it was creepier.
They do a different take on isolation in this one too. Like, obviously Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, where you're isolated in a cabin in the woods with nobody around and you're kind of cut off. This is in a apartment building where they're on a high up floor and the elevator isn't working and the stairs are collapsed. So they are stuck up there. They can't get down. That was kind of an interesting way to make it isolated in a different way.
I liked that they got the same cabin in the woods, can't get help thing going on. Very cool for sure. That's what was exciting to me from the jump, was that, hey, we're not in a cabin in the woods. We're doing a different thing here. It just wasn't different enough, I feel. I feel like it was just the same movie, just with updated graphics, a little bit of a different plot line. I liked the final girl. She was great. She developed well through the movie. I felt I liked the creature that was spawned towards the end. That was really cool.
Yes, I know what you're
I enjoyed that a
referring to.
lot. And yeah, they were talking. So I don't actually think that this book was actually the Necronomicon. They did mention that it was part of the set.
Yeah, this says it
Which is
is
interesting.
one of the 3 volumes of the Naturum Demonto.
Okay.
So
it's-
there you go.
Yeah, so like I didn't know there were other volumes. That was a cool like addition to the lore. I thought that the vault was kind of cool that they found, but it was also kind of
Convenient.
it was like really convenient to the point where it kind of lost its effect. You know what I mean? Like they could have very easily had stumbled into like one of the abandoned apartments or something where someone had been, you know what I mean? I think that would have been more interesting. I think that if they had one of these priests had been living in this high rise and they stumbled into that room and like that, I think that could have been a cooler thing, especially if he was still alive like at some point. I don't know. Once again, I feel like maybe I could add to this writing in a productive manner. They should have called me.
The actress, her name is Alyssa Sutherland, that plays the mom in it, who is the one that becomes possessed, as you can see.
She's very good.
The imagery of the posters or the trailers. She was great. I thought the physical acting that she did was pretty incredible. She seems very tall, or at least she's portrayed that way, so that like gave her kind of a cool look. Since she has long limbs, which works well with somebody who is possessed. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think you're wrong, Jahan. I feel like I liked it a lot. Like I was entertained. It's a crisp 90 minutes, so it flies by.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was light on scares, like genuine scares, but the imagery that was there was very good. And it kind of rides this weird tone, which I think this is kind of a thing with Evil Dead, right? Like you have the first Evil Dead that plays itself totally serious for the most part. There's some campy. It's campy because it's old and low budget, but like they try to play it straight. And then Evil Dead 2 leans way more into the comedy and kind of
Full
the
camp.
slapstick. And then Army of Darkness leans into that even further by going full fantasy horror comedy. The Evil Dead movie that came out in I think 2013 is when it came out. I think it's played
Was
totally
fantastic.
straight. Right, and that one's played super serious. This one's kind of weird. Like it's played serious, but there are some parts that made me laugh with the things that the possessed say or do. Like there are some laughs in it, but it never leans fully into that comedy. It still tries to play it as horror. So it was tonally a little bit odd, I think.
The part that made me roll my eyes, ironically, was when that kid choked on that eyeball.
Yeah, that was pretty cheesy.
That was cheesy.
That was like a Evil Dead 2 moment for sure, but it seemed out of place
It was.
in this movie.
It was weird. Yeah, I don't know. They had like it was weird. It was like they had these weird moments where they like didn't know what movie they were trying to make, and they just kept them in. But yeah, overall, not bad. Maybe wait for it to come out on streaming. A decent watch, but something was missing for sure.
I think that's fair.
Something was missing.
That's
Definitely,
fair. And
I would watch a sequel though.
it did worth noting when I went to see it on a Sunday afternoon, my theater was pretty empty, but yet it made over $20 million at the box office, which I feel like is pretty solid for this. And its budget was only 19 million, so it's gonna be just fine. It'll probably chug along and make more.
I mean, that's
Mario
the beauty
was
of
still
horror.
number one this weekend, which of course it was.
I mean, horror movies are usually the safest box office bet, period. So, that's fair enough. Yeah, my theater was empty. I went on a Monday though. I went on a Monday after work, and it was just me, and then there's some other guy like way over there, and that was it. There was 0 other people. And honestly, that was the creepiest part about the movie.
You said that you are, so you're kind of a little lukewarm on it. I think I'm a little higher on it than you are, but I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. Would you say that it's certified fresh out the podcast?
No.
Oh, I would say it is. I would say it is. So we're split. It's like
We can
kind
be
of
split. I mean, like, I'm not going to fight you on it. Like, if you felt that it was good enough to suggest, then sure. Like, I'm not telling people not to watch it, and I
So
have
maybe not
in the
certified
past.
fresh, but it's fresh enough.
Fresh enough.
Fresh enough. Okay. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it.
Someone left it out on the counter, but we gave it a sniff. I guess we could eat it.
All right. Well, those were our two big points of news to unpack. So from here,
Yeah, I feel like it's
we
worth
can
mentioning
move.
that I think my expectations might have been too high.
That's fair.
That
That's
might have
fair.
been what it was.
I was seeing really positive reviews and buzz about it, so I saw it and I was like, "Hey, it was fine." I'm like, unless did I miss something? And I'm glad to hear no. It sounds like I didn't miss anything because you kind of felt similarly. Yeah. So
All right.
our fresh picks of the week, which I want to start off by talking a little bit about the new Ari Aster film that's out called Beau is Afraid. I want to talk about this because it was on my top 5 most anticipated films of the year. I have now seen it in all 179 minutes of its glory. It is long. It's a 3-hour film. Have you guys seen Hereditary or Midsommar?
I've seen Hereditary.
You've seen Hereditary. Okay. Um,
Gary's thinking.
No, I haven't. I know that I haven't seen them. They're both gruesome from what I've heard, and so I chose not to watch them.
yeah, Hereditary is kind of what kicked off this terminology of like elevated horror, which is not necessarily the terminology of that is frowned upon now. I feel like in the community,
I think it's silly.
it was tossed around pretty casually at one point. But yeah, Hereditary is really good. It's got kind of a bonkers third act, but it's shot really well and it's really well done. And I love Midsommar. I like Midsommar even more than Hereditary. So Ari Aster has quickly become one of those directors where I'm like, I'll go see whatever he's putting out there. He seems like he's really into horror, but there's some twists of comedy in it. And Beau is Afraid is quite a wild ride. I did write a review for Nerdtropolis, and the thing with this movie is I don't know how to classify it in a genre because it's not a horror movie necessarily. It's what I said in my review is it's a surrealist nightmare horror comedy. I don't know how else to categorize it. It stars Joaquin Phoenix and the short end of trying to describe the plot is it's a guy who is trying to get home and kind of everything goes wrong, and the title's Beau's Afraid, and he is definitely very afraid. And the opening act is him getting to his apartment, and just outside of the apartment in the streets during the day is every horrifying thing you could imagine. I mean, like people getting mugged or stabbed or raped in the streets in front of cops. Cops don't care. Like it is the absolute heightened sense of the society. Kids buying guns at like concession stands in the street, like things like this. It's just all the worst things you could imagine happening out in daytime at the most heightened sense. And Beau, who's this character who's afraid of everything, it's this representation of anxiety, and you feel it with him. And he goes into his apartment, and it's the one place he can find solace, and all these crazy things are happening out in the street. And that's just within the first like 30 minutes of the movie. And most of the movie doesn't even take place in this apartment. It moves on from there. But to go on from there, it just takes a series of bizarre turns, and there's a lot of shocks and just absolute strangeness. I've talked to people who've said this is the strangest movie that they've ever seen in their lives. And my thing with this is anybody that has seen Hereditary that's like, oh, I loved Hereditary. Ari Aster's great. I want to go see Beau is Afraid because I got to see the new Hereditary. I think a lot of those casual moviegoers are going to go into this and despise it because it will not be what they are expecting. And if you go into this movie not knowing what to expect, I don't know if you're going to like what it's dishing out to you. Put it that way. It is shot incredibly well. Joaquin Phoenix is amazing in it. Like all the tools of the trade here are great, but just the story is absolutely so wild, and is ultimately a guy who has extreme anxiety issues and a lot of issues, mommy issues as well. Is what this dives into. I gave this movie an 8 out of 10 in my review, like 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it, but if you guys were to see this movie in the future and say I give it 0 out of 5 stars, I wouldn't even be able to argue with you about it. I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I could see it. It is just one of the most bonkers movies I've seen in a long time. It's up there among the weirder films that I've seen. The fact that this is a A24 studio movie that's 3 hours long that goes here, like, it's just
that's the part that's the part that puts me down, man. I don't know if I want to watch that for 3 hours.
It's a long sit, man. It's a lot, and it is a lot. It is a lot. It is a taxing experience watching this movie for sure. There is a fun supporting cast of people that show up in it. You've got Patty LuPone plays his mother, Amy Ryan, Nathan Lane is in this. Parker Posey is amazing in this when she shows up. So there's some recognizable faces here, but Joaquin Phoenix is the big name here. And I'm just looking. Aster, the director, has described the film in many ways, including a nightmare comedy or a Jewish Lord of the Rings, but Bo's just going to his mom's house.
I heard that it was Jewish Lord of the Rings. I didn't understand what they meant by that. I heard that one. I was like, what could that possibly mean?
He's also described it as if you pumped a 10-year-old full of Zoloft and had him go get your groceries. So...
honestly, it sounded better and better.
There's a lot of good gags in this that made me laugh, and some truly entertaining moments, but some things that happen in the climax of the movie I think will make or break it for people. Like it goes fully into the bizarre to a point where either there are some moments
sounds maybe more disturbing than horror.
Yeah, okay. I'd probably say more disturbing than horror. There's not many jump scares or anything like that. There's no like.
I'm still not over Hereditary, so I don't know.
Yeah, they're very different. They're very different, and I think that Bo is Afraid will be extremely polarizing. I did enjoy it quite a bit. But I just had to talk about it here because it was on my most anticipated, so I wanted to give it its time. But boy, is this a weird movie. Approach with, I don't want to say approach with caution, but just approach it with the right mindset. Maybe
approach with caution is fair. That might have been a good name for the movie.
Sounds exactly right.
Right. So anyway, that's it for Bo's Afraid. That's the only movie I had on my list. The rest are all TV shows or so. Do y'all have any movies, or should we move on?
Let's do is you got any movies, Gary? I don't have any movies.
No, but if we're going to TV shows, I'll kick it off here. Since I was on the road, I didn't have time to play any video games. I didn't really have time to watch any new movies or new TV. But just last night, I happened to turn on the TV in the hotel room, and I was able to catch Monday Night Raw. And of course, I haven't been watching wrestling since WrestleMania because Vince McMahon took back over, and he left last year in disgrace because of sexual assault allegations, and that hasn't gone away, so I still don't want to support his product with him behind it. But I caught an episode. And what did I see? Thanks for asking. Triple H introduced Triple H introduced a new World Heavyweight Championship belt. Because Roman Reigns has had both of the other belts for so long, and the story has become so stale and so boring, that instead of having him lose one of the belts, they just created another one. So now they basically have the Can't Beat Roman Reigns Consolation Prize Championship belt. And so that's a new thing.
That's stupid.
And I think it's terrible, and I think that, maybe Triple H thought it was cool, maybe Vince thought it was cool, but no matter what, it's bad for the writers. It's hard to make, in the writer room, now you can't make any champion look legitimate. There's obviously just the second belt. And all the guys who've been doing work with the mid-card second belts, guys like Bobby Lashley, guys like Austin Theory, they've been busting their ass and really putting the United States Championship on the map again and making it a belt worth fighting for. But now they introduce this new belt and kind of ignore those guys and what they've been doing. It's just bad. It's bad for writing. It's bad for everybody. Good job. Glad Vince McMahon is back and involved. Things are so cool over in WWE.
Do you like the design of the belt, though?
Okay, now if we're talking about how the belt looks, yes, it looks pretty sick. And it is, I think it's funny because it's the World Heavyweight Championship belt, which is what the old belt was that they got rid of to replace it with the Universal Championship. So now Roman Reigns has the WWE Universal Championship and the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. That's what his two belts are called.
It's the cycle that we've seen for years, right? Like at one point, I can't remember who it was back when. Like I just remember Cena and Orton fighting for the undisputed championship, and it was when they had the classic WCW World Heavyweight Championship belt, and they had the WWE Championship belt that was like the spinner style one. It didn't spin anymore, but that one. Then they unified those. We got the one like they have now with the big WWE.
I remember when that
logo
happened.
on it.
Yeah.
And then they were at that time they're like, now we just have one belt and it's the undisputed one and it's on both brands. And then that only lasts for so long before they bring in a second belt so they can have one on both.
We're
shows.
splitting into two brands again, so we're splitting the belt. And so now one is the WWE Universal Championship and the other one's the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Even though they're pretty much disputed, that's like the whole point of a title, right? Is that you have fights and they're disputed. But I don't know. It's dumb.
Then you put both those belts on one guy and then say, now we got to get another belt so that we can have somebody else with the belt. And I assume that the two belts Roman has will just be eventually merged into one belt.
Yeah,
again.
and
So
they
just-
should have gone ahead and done that now instead of
Sounds
making
like-
us wait for this silliness.
It sounds
Thank
like
you.
all of
Cycle-
these belts are brought to you by cocaine.
The cycle just never ends with WWE.
But to answer your question, Drew, yes, the new belt does look cool. It looks like the old WCW belt, sort of, but they beefed it up and then slapped the cruiserweight WWE logo on top of it. And of course, that belt's been retired, the one with the purple strap from 205 Live. But it looks like those two belts combined, and it's actually a pretty good looking belt. It looks chunky, it looks heavy, it looks like a championship. So at least there's that.
I saw pictures of it. I also like it. I agree with a lot of your takes on the storytelling aspects of it, but physically, I think it does kind of have a cool look to it.
I mean, yeah,
so.
that's real dumb storytelling, but whatever.
Yep. So that's what I tuned in for, and I'll go back to not watching his product while he's involved with it. Anytime Triple H says he'll have an announcement, I'm curious because I'd like to see what Triple H does with his life, not really what Vince does with his.
While we're on it, do you have any other cool notes about your road trip or any highlights that you want to share?
So 2 days there, 2 days stayed, 2 days back for 4 days in the car altogether. There's a lot of time in the car, but it wasn't so bad. It was like a 16 hour trip from northern New Mexico to southern Arkansas. And it was cool out there, man. Lots of trees, really beautiful. My mom's in a small town with just surrounded by nature. We got to ride the four-wheeler. They had a bonfire. Some of our cousins came over and they were throwing the baseball out in the front yard and the dog was chasing the ball. And it was just like super iconic America stuff. You know what I mean? It was cute watching the family throw the ball around and then mom made barbecue. And we stayed in the trailer in the back. My mom has a travel trailer, so we had our own space. I stopped by a mini store in Little Rock on the way up there, bought myself some miniatures because I always like to support local game stores when I travel. I got myself a can of primer. So I've got minis to paint from the trip, man. It was a good time altogether. I will say that my review of Arkansas stays. It is a beautiful state full of very not great people. I don't want to burn everybody who lives in Arkansas, but man, you guys really like guns down there, and you guys really want to shoot people for stealing your stuff or stepping on your property. It's really weird and crazy, man. We're all about peace and love in my state, and it's weird to go down there with loving, violent Christians who they want to give you a hug and then tell you how they can't wait to shoot their neighbor who's going to steal their lawnmower. It's just an absolutely bizarre place. It feels like it's 60 years in the past. My mom still lives in a dry county, so you can't buy alcohol in her county at all, and you can't buy any alcohol in the whole state on Sunday. And meanwhile, and my state has, reproductive rights and legal marijuana, and it's just like I drove into the past. I'm happy to be back.
Doug.
It was, dude. It was totally bizarro world. I always feel like having lived in Houston my whole life, moving to New Mexico feels like a different country. But when you go from New Mexico to Arkansas, it seriously feels like you drive like 50, 60 years ago. It's crazy. I drove straight back in time. But altogether, it was a nice trip. Arkansas neighbors are really nosy and friendly. They just want to get all up in your business and talk to you all day. So that's kind of nice. But it's also not. So I'm glad I'm glad that they're not up in my business anymore, but it was nice to meet and see everyone. To next year in Arkansas, I'll probably go back and stop back by that game store. I think it was called Game Goblin or something like that. It was actually a pretty cool store. Lots and lots of minis, lots and lots of paints, tons of room in the back to play, board games, card games. Their games were sorted by cooperative and strategy and tactics, so great store, man. That's probably my favorite part of the trip was that store. And we stayed in a historic Route 66 hotel on the way back home, so that was kind of cool too, stopping in the old Route 66 towns. But I'm happy to be back in the mountains instead of the sweaty, sweaty woods. It's nice and cold and dry here, just like I like it.
Perfect, man. Well, I'm
Sounds
glad
like
you
a
had a
good
good
trip,
trip. I don't know how to segue better than this. Do we want to talk Mandalorian just for a few minutes?
Yeah, we
Finale?
probably should.
I just personally, we've been talking about it here and there throughout the season. I didn't think it was worth necessarily devoting the whole episode to the finale because, to me personally, the finale was kind of about what I expected it to be.
Nice minis.
Based on lead up, what did y'all think of the Mandalorian finale?
Overall, better than the rest of the season. They did it. They did the thing. My beef is that it's like, oh, you guys had that the whole time, and then just like blew it all in the last. Like they should have been seeding that plot the whole season, and it was just out of nowhere, man.
They did a great job with it. I was so happy. It reminded me of talking to you guys because you guys have been saying, where is this going? It's not going anywhere yet. And, none of us have been very hot on it. But we should have trusted in Dave Filoni the whole time. Dave and John know what they're doing, and they know where the story's going. And it ended with an absolute bang. And I love the way that they kept the cat in the bag until the very end. I think it really made you sort of, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. We kind of forgot about it. We were kind of wondering, where is this going? What's the point? And then, boom, we're here. I thought it was just great. Instead of inching me along the story and making me wait for it, you just slapped me in the face with it. I loved the ending. And the last two episodes were almost like one long episode. They just run straight together, and I loved that.
I agree that... Yeah. Of those last two episodes and the way they ran together. I'd disagree kind of on the season as a whole. I think the pacing of the season was kind of terrible, the way that it inched along. And but I did think the last two episodes were strong. And I think that if it had been little reveals here and there that all led up to that finale, it could have been a really great season as a whole. And instead it was, a couple cool moments here and there with a decent finale, but otherwise I just thought the pacing was kind of off. And but again, I try not to be hypocritical with this because I feel like Mandalorian is giving me a lot of what I've asked for over the years as a Star Wars fan. If I want new planets and new locations and new aliens and new droids and new things like that, and this show has given me a lot of that this season. So I don't want to sit here and and complain about what I've been asking for in a sense, but I just wish that the overall narrative could have been a little bit more cohesive. I will eat my words on some of the things, like I complained a lot early in the season about like, why are we giving time to IG-11 and rebuilding IG-11? Like, I just don't get it. Nobody's asking for this. And the payoff of it essentially being a vehicle for Grogu to drive, I did like, I am a sucker for Grogu, so him being in it and hitting the no and yes buttons, like I'm here for that. Like it does make me laugh. So I will eat my words on some of those things in particular because I think the payoff ended up working. But I don't know. So much of this season just left me going like, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And some of those things paid off, and some of them didn't. It's like overall, I would say I enjoyed watching the episodes. I watched them all week to week, but there's nothing about season 3 of Mandalorian that's leaving me drooling, waiting for season 4. Like it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I last two episodes were great. But yeah, I pretty much disliked the rest of the season for the reasons that you say you liked it. Like, there's just, I don't know, they do slap you in the face with that. I dislike that. Like, I want there to be a little bit more. I feel like they had a lot to work with. Like, the Dark Troopers were really cool. I like the new Dark Troopers. I do enjoy the fact that they actually did what they did with the Darksaber. Because, I don't know, that thing just never felt like anything. You know what I mean? It was just kind of there. It was kind of meh.
Kind of agree with you. It's been like this weird MacGuffin and being passed back and forth between Mando and whatever. Like, just, get rid of it.
I'm still stuck on what Jahan said last week because he hit the nail on the head. Just it being passed over on a technicality made the whole MacGuffin so much less interesting.
Yeah, it was just like, what's the point? And I guess they understood that. They got rid of it.
Yeah, at that point, throw it down a hole. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, there were some genuinely cool moments in this. There were a lot of really cool fights. I really liked the shield fight thing. It rang of Qui-Gon and Darth Maul. That was cool. That was probably one of the coolest Star Wars fights I've seen.
That was cool when the droid was hacking down the shield walls and Mando was pushing through one by one. That was awesome. And then the comedy happening on the other side of that with the little alarm droids finding his astromech and then like the 12 little alarm droids coming back and just bumping it. Woo! And then one falls down the giant hole. I thought that was a great laugh. Just a good bit.
I feel... And then the whole thing with the clones, that was fine. I feel like they just sort of like, hey, here, this is psych. Like, it just felt like it was there and gone way too quick. And that's something that could have been solved with build-up and, like, foreshadowing. But... The real issue, so here's, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't seeing it right? So they get ambushed in the hangar, right? Gideon's there. Gideon flies away to his command room, right? And then he can see exactly where Mando is. He knows where Mando's going. Mando's heading to him, essentially. Gideon leaves, but then somehow gets there after, like, Mando destroys the clone. I don't know. It just felt like a weird, like, point A to point B. Like, the timing and the, like, spatial reasoning doesn't make sense to me on how it went around like that. But hey, I mean, I guess that's just the story they wanted to tell.
So didn't the injured fall back in the second to last episode to the frigate, to the big ship? And then they got reinforcements from all the starfighter Mandos. So I thought that the injured should have been aboard the transport ship whenever it got crashed straight into the base.
So they were on there, but then they, like, left. There was a lot. See, honestly, what we're talking about right now is just kind of how I felt about the whole season. There's a lot of unnecessary, like, going here to that just to come back again. There's a lot of unnecessary going there to come back again. And it just really, the timelines don't match up. It's all weird. I didn't know that Mandalorians could fly out of orbit anyways. Like, that was crazy.
Well, I was going to comment on that too, because I saw some others commenting on it. Didn't they make a pretty big deal in, like, the earlier seasons and in Book of Boba Fett of, like, the limited fuel that they have for their jetpacks and they can't go super long distance? And then in this season, this last episode, they're literally, like, flying across the planet.
They got better fuel or something, man. Like,
Yeah,
because
That
it's kinda funny.
Mandalorian fuel on Mandalore.
yeah, the atmosphere is made for jetpacks better, I guess. But yeah, during the bird episode where they were chasing that bird, it was like a thing. They're like, "Oh, we can only fly this much." Like, I don't know, man. There was a lot
When we
of
used to
that.
play Halo, we used to do this thing called a vehicle, which is if you jump out of a vehicle and you make it run somebody over, it says you've been killed by a vehicle. So we used to jump out of the Ghost or the Warthog and make it run into people. So in this episode of Mandalorian, when I saw Homeboy jump out of the ship and a vehicle, a whole Imperial base, I had a pretty good laugh because that's definitely something that I would have done.
That was a moment I had
as a
zero.
Mandalorian.
I had zero problems with that moment.
I thought that was super funny. Just like, you know what? You're going to shoot it down. You can have it. He just yeets it straight into the hole.
The last episodes were great. I just feel like the rest of the season wasn't up to snuff with it.
Like if I'm giving a number grade to the season out of 10, I'm giving it like a 6.5
6.
out of 10.
I would
like
give
a
it like
6
a
out of
6.
10.
But if I was giving
that's
those
fair.
last two episodes were like 8 and 9.
Agreed.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like we're all pretty much on the same page for the most part. Yeah. Did you have any other shows you've been watching, Jahan?
yeah, I've been back on my anime. I've been watching anime. I finished Goblin Slayer. I finished the first season. It was good. I liked it. It was cool. It ends on kind of a nice note. It's interesting. But hey, I need to do anime, and I was scrolling through Crunchyroll, and I remember hearing good things about Chainsaw Man. I have avoided it because it looks silly, and like it just it's hard to tell with anime sometimes. I should learn to trust the community because the anime community usually has pretty decent opinions about this thing. Chainsaw Man's dope. It is a modern day anime in where humans live side by side with devils. Devils walk the earth, and devils can be anything. There are blood devils and zombie devils, leech devils and bat devils, and anything could be a devil. And Chainsaw Man, it starts off, he's working for the Yakuza, things go wrong, he winds up making a deal with the devil. And he has chainsaw hands and head. So, the character himself, like on the surface, the design's pretty silly. But in practice, I'm finding that I like it a lot. There's definitely some fan service in this. It's not the worst I've seen. They're kind of honest about it. They're more honest about their fan service than most animes are, I feel. Makes it a little more okay. I enjoy the lore. I enjoy what's going on. It's got... he eventually he joins a team of devil hunters working for the government. So it's one of those storylines, but he's on thin ice kind of thing, And it's one of those. I like it a lot. It had a lot of... It has some One Punch Man mixed in with some Yu Yu Hakusho ideas that I think play well together. And yeah, if you like gory battle demon animes, check it out. At least watch the first one. The first one, if you don't like the first one, you might not like it, but it starts off pretty strong in my opinion. Chainsaw Man, I certify it fresh.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to be
Man.
the voice of the anime for the podcast.
Hey, I like it. I'm here for that. I tuned into the new Netflix special of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always that came out late last week on Netflix. I decided to watch this because it's basically aimed at us, right? Like, this is aimed for the people who are nostalgic for Power Rangers and wanted to see some things with the original Power Rangers. Although they didn't all return for this, but we did have... Let me pull this up because I can't remember.
Yeah, it's weird. They pulled it out from different generations. Like, they got the Blue and Black Ranger from the first season, and then I think the second or third Red Ranger... same with the Pink Ranger. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, so they had Walter Jones, who is Zack, the original Black Ranger, was in this, as well as David Yost, who is the original Blue Ranger. And then Steve Cardenas, who plays Rocky, so he's the second Red Ranger. And then Catherine Sutherland, who plays Kat, who is the Pink Ranger that came in after I had already stopped watching as a kid. I don't remember exactly when she came in. Notably absent from this is Amy Jo Johnson, the original Pink Ranger. And then also Jason David Frank, of course, wasn't in it, which he sadly passed away in November, but he was actually still alive when they filmed this. But Amy Jo Johnson has since tweeted that she and Jason David Frank were not in it for other reasons, that the things that they had going on. So I believe they were invited to be part of it. Anyway, that being said, this is the full-on cheese that you would expect from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They do not let up on it at all in the modern age. If anything, it's almost cheesier than you remember it being. The acting here is just atrocious, but almost like purposefully so. Like, it's all so fitting for the show. For our generation and fans of the original Power Rangers, this special really acts as kind of a big dedication or like memorial service for Trini, who the original actress that played Trini sadly passed away when she was only 27 years old in a car accident. So this kind of gives some closure to Trini's character. They reference her a lot, and her daughter, not real life daughter, the actress's real life daughter, but just the character's daughter in the show plays a big part in this as well. But I could never recommend this to anybody in good faith unless you're just a diehard Power Rangers fan and you want more of it. You're gonna get exactly what you expect, but from a quality standpoint, it's not anything amazing. It's just some Power Rangers cheese if you want to have a shot of nostalgia straight into your veins. That would be the reason to watch this. If you were not a fan of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers when you were 4 or 5 years old, you're not going to find anything to enjoy here. So anyway, that's it. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, once and always, made for the diehard Power Ranger fans. The other shows that I was just going to note was Ted Lasso, which Gary, we had messaged about it a little bit. This last episode was an hour long, and for me, I've seen a lot of people give me every minute of Ted Lasso. No, I thought this was unnecessarily long. I miss my Ted Lasso, quick bites, half an hour of just great feel-good stuff. I just thought this most recent episode, a lot of it didn't work for me. It was too long. I don't know what they're doing. This third season's been really strange, I think. I like it. I like watching it. I love these characters, but it's just some of the things they're focusing on are odd. Am I in an island on this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the third season. It did start off a little slow for me. And my wife as well, Annie, she was like, I don't think I like this show anymore. I don't want to watch it. But 3 episodes in, I think she was back on board. But yeah, it is kind of weird writing-wise. They've added 2 characters that seemed like they were going to be pretty main characters and then got rid of both of them within 2 episodes, which was definitely strange writing. And then the hour-long episode I wasn't ready for, but I was ready for it. You know what I mean? I wasn't expecting it. But when the episode kept not ending, I was like, okay, I wonder how many scenes are left. But I'm feeling it. I'm here. I didn't expect it at all.
I just felt its length a lot, and there were some of the storylines I think worked, and some of the advancements worked. I love Roy and Jamie and everything that's going on with them, but I thought the actual team's storyline in this episode was pretty weak. But there were things that I liked, but man, it's just Ted Lasso was this consistent 30-minute comedy for the first 2 seasons, and the third season it has some of that still, but the episodes are getting a little longer. They're leaning into some more of the drama with it. It's still the feel-good show. I don't think that's been lost, but it's just I don't know. It's just very strange. And this is the final season, so
You're
this is
growing
it.
apart.
I
Yeah.
didn't know this was the
Yeah.
final season. Man, that's bad news. Oh well.
So anyway,
I guess-
I just wanted to note that on Ted Lasso. I also wanted to shout out Barry, which I've been watching on
Barry?
Sundays after Succession, which Succession this week was incredible. But Barry, I just wanted to shout out. There's a cameo early on in this episode from Guillermo del Toro. Shows up as a character in this, and I like almost spit out my drink when he popped up because I wasn't expecting it. I'm like, is that G Del T himself? And it was, and it was wonderful to see him in an acting role in Barry of all shows. A very good show. I highly recommend Barry. So I just wanted to shout out Guillermo del Toro making an appearance on Barry. And then that's it for everything I was watching. The only other thing I had on my list is a game, and I'm assuming y'all have probably been playing some things, but I just wanted to note. Last week when I updated my Resident Evil 4 remake progress, I think I had just beat the main campaign last week when we recorded. I have since beat it twice more since then. But for anybody that's played Resident Evil games, as you upgrade and do New Game Plus, you can speed through a lot faster. And it's worth noting that my first playthrough took me about 20 hours. My second playthrough on a harder difficulty took me about 9 hours. And my third playthrough on the hardest difficulty, by that point I had unlocked the rocket launcher with unlimited ammo, and I cheesed my way through the hardest difficulty in about 3.5 hours. Somewhere between 3.5 to 4 hours. So got the speedrunning trophy or achievement in the game. Had a really, really great time with Resident Evil 4 Remake. I've liked all these Resident Evil remakes. And every time I've walked away from one, I've been like, man, that was really good. And this one is no different. Great game. So
Yeah,
I think I'm done with it now. I've done all that I can. Some of the other challenges and achievements they have of like play through the game without speaking to the merchant at all, or play through the game without using a healing item. Like, I'm good. I don't care enough to do those. I've beaten it 3 times now. I think I'm all set.
Yeah. I mean, I usually feel similarly to Gary about remakes. Unless it's a game I haven't played before and they remake it and then I finally get to play it, then typically it's like, why? What are you doing? But the Resident Evil remakes are all really good and they are improved. And I feel like they're worth a remake. They really take them to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one in particular, I didn't get around to. For once, I feel like usually if they're remaking a game, I've probably played the original, but I didn't play Resident Evil 4, so I got to experience it for the first time in this super high quality package. So for me in particular, that was really fun. Although I know a lot of fans of the original game were buying this day one, ready to jump into it again because it's truly a beloved game. And of course, it got like 10 out of 10s in reviews, so it's very good. I finished it at the perfect time because Star Wars Jedi Survivor comes out on Friday of this week, and so I feel like I finished Resident Evil. I've got a clean slate. I was going to start up Ghostwire Tokyo after Resident Evil, but with Jedi Survivor coming out this week, I think I'm just going to hold off.
I'm already hearing such good things about Jedi Survivor that I'm tempted, even though I'm playing Ghostwire. And I kind of want to get Dead Island 2, because I'm actually hearing it's not bad. So that's cool. But yeah, Jedi Survivor sounds really good. But yeah, the only game I played this week has been Ghostwire Tokyo. I'll talk about it one more time when I beat it. But as of right now, I've just been having like an absolute blast. And it just like gets progressively more fun the more I play, which is rare for a game. And it's a game that I've enjoyed more than most games the past like year or two. So I'm having a good time.
Don't jump on Dead Island 2 yet. We'll get Redfall for free next Tuesday, so
Sure.
that might be able to waste some of our time.
That's right. That does
I don't
have
think
that.
Redfall's going to be great, but at least we won't have to spend extra money on it.
Yeah.
I've been playing Vampire Survivors still. I'm in the same boat as you, John. Playing more, unlocking more, and somehow it continues to be more fun. I found out that you unlock new characters and new maps if you have like 5,000 upgrade eggs. So now I've just been on endless mode
That's funny.
for like hours. I've just been grinding this game on. I have like 10,000 or 10 million gold or something on my screen right now. I paused it to come podcast. but I'm deep in the grind of Vampire Survivors.
Hell yeah, man. Get some. But yeah, that's what we've been up to, y'all. Thank you for listening to episode 84, Drew, of Fresh
84.
Out the Podcast. I've been Johannanon at RockFact on Twitter.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast and Fresh Out the Box. That's where Jahan and I and guests/friends play tabletop role-playing games. Every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're trying to play new games and bring you some sort of laughs or cries or just make you feel something in this existential dread you may be locked in. We are starting a new game this week, session 0 of Fantasy Age. What is it? 2nd edition, right? So
Yeah.
come see us build characters, pick a plot, figure out what we're going to do, come meet our players this Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time until 10 p.m. Mountain Time. Catch us every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Thank you for being here, and don't forget to like and upvote and share this show. Thanks, guys.
And I am Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. And thank you again for listening to episode 84 of Fresh Out the Podcast.
Stay fresh.